Alright, this is Jake. This is going to be my first ever Blender tutorial for Instagram, so that's kind of cool. Alright, today I'm going to show you guys how I made this scene, which I will put a clip to right now. Basically, like every good scene, as soon as you turn the camera, everything falls apart. There's basically nothing here that makes sense. Alright, let's break it down. First off, go into this view, which this is called a MatCap. Basically, you can go right here, and then you can pick whatever material you want to show your objects as. And I personally like this one, and then I hit random here, so normally it'd just be all white. But whatever you hit random, it gives every individual object a different color, so you can tell what's connected and what's not. Sometimes it'll get a little hard to tell, like these are two separate objects, but they have a color that's pretty similar, but it's okay. So, let's start out with the scene. I got this idea from something, and I'm actually going to, you know what? First person that can tell me what I got this idea from, I'll Venmo you $1 because it's pretty popular, but it's also a little off the wall, so it could be fun. But yeah, idea was I wanted to have a dude sitting on steps, and that dude happens to be Kento. And I wanted the stairs to have these little pillars in front. I wanted to have weird stairs going off in different directions and things like that, which is fun. I like it. Basically, for the stairs going off in weird directions, I got a fire escape model from the internet, and I flipped it upside down, and I just stuck it on the backside of this pillar. So let's hide that. For each of the fence posts, the fence was actually kind of interesting. So this was the original fence, and I'll just show you everything but that. I use Shift H in order to hide everything but the object which I'm looking at. So this is interesting. Basically, I modeled half of a fence, and then I basically used the mirror modifier, which is right here. I haven't applied any of that, which you don't really need to, and it saves your computer some rendering, so that's fine because there's less faces overall. This is 119 faces, and so if I were to apply this, it would basically double, and then if I were to apply all of the arrays, it would sextuple, it looks like. Yeah, so that's not good. So yeah, basically you have this object, which again is just half. You have the mirror modifier, and then you have these arrays. So if I were to hide this array, if I were to hide this array, so you guys can't see it, then it would just look like this. The array is basically what makes a grid of these objects. And I've used the array modifier a lot in this. So as you can see, you can change it up on the X, Y, or Z. So on the X, I just have it set to 1, which means one object length between this and then the next object length. And with that, it'll give you the exact thing you want. It'll basically put perfect spacing between all your objects so they look connected. If you do more, then as you can see, they spread out, and then you could also do something like this or like that, and you can change the height of them and all kinds of stuff. But for what I'm doing, I just want them to all be connected because I want it to look like a fence. So with that, oops, Alt H to bring back everything that you hid. With that, I did that for basically all of these fences. This is just an array. All of these are just arrays duplicated from this original object. This is the same array. I just applied the mirror modifier. As you can see, it's not here anymore. And then I rotated the top and then, yeah, just put the array slightly down on the z-axis, so there's a little bit of bend. Stairs are pretty straightforward. I just modeled some easy steps. They are nothing special. I literally just, this is the very first thing I started with. I just made some stairs, brought out the lip here because I knew that they were going to be in the forefront, so I wanted them to have a little extra detail, and that was it. Pretty much all of these things are modeled pretty straightforward. So let's talk about things that I didn't have to model. Also, little details really help before we get away from the models. Little details really help. So I threw in some pipes here, which I wanted because in the rendered view you can see they basically you can't see them very well in the actual final product. Like this one stands out a little bit, but this one is just kind of there. The important thing is that they bring attention to this big girder, which is a divider. Also, it has little bolts, which I made using the array modifier. Those are basically just squares subdivided once and then solidified, and then apply the solidify, and then just add an array. You don't even need to apply the solidify, I just did it because I could. Oh yeah, let's go talk about the backgrounds. So these guys are images from the internet. I just went online and I literally Googled, I think Chinese marketplace or something like that. Yeah, I Googled that. These were the first two results. I loved both of them. I think they look really cool. So then I was able to go up here, you hit import, and then you can choose import as planes, and that will basically you can choose any image off of your computer and then it will generate a plane that is equal to the size of the image, and then you can just put that into your scene directly as a background, which is pretty great. And you don't have to use background images for your camera, which is this guy here that's hiding underneath this piece of fire escape, which I ripped off the top of this. And yeah, so you go into the camera here. Normally you would have to go camera, background images, and then add an image, but then you could only have one. And I wanted to connect both of these because I really loved the jewelry sign on this one, and I really loved all of the signage on the other one. So I came to a solution, which was import both of them as planes, and then kind of displace them so this one's a little farther back, that way it gets a little blurrier with depth of field. So then what I did was I went through, and you might even be able to see it if I, yeah, there we go. So I added these point lights, which aren't in the actual scene. So if I were to hide these, it would look kind of goofy. It's just dark. There is no light on this background because it's just an image. So it doesn't generate any light on its own. And so I wanted a quick and easy solution, so I added some point lights for colors that I wanted. So I wanted yellow here, green here, and I think a red or orange right here. Yeah, so you can see this color is red. The power is 9,000 because everything in the scene is super big, and I didn't actually mean to make it this scaled up, but I forgot to change it at the beginning, so that's how it is. And same thing for over here. For the wings jewelry, I have a yellow, this blue light, and then there should be a red light down on this sign, which you can't even see in the final scene. This is below what you can see in the final scene, but it still adds to the overall luminosity of the entire page. So in this page, you might not be able to see that specific red light, but it still adds to the underglow of this red light, and it puts some light onto these posts here in this staircase. So it's what else have I done? Oh, I added a backlight here, and this is just a 10,000 power spot lamp. Or no, sorry, it's not spot, it's still a point light. But I just needed something to lighten up the scene because without this, it is very dark. It is very difficult to tell. So here's the difference. So this is what it did look like. This is what it looks like now. So there's a huge difference between those two, and I really think it was useful. So let's get to the interesting part. Kento. Basically, I needed to figure out a couple of things. Oh, by the way, the police lights are just these two point lights here. There are these 2 point lights. There's a red one and there's a blue one. And then there's this girder, which I put down, which you can actually see in the final product. There's just these bars on the top, which is fine. It adds to the aesthetic of it, I think. And they just have a repeating light. So they'll jump to 0 every 25 frames, and then they'll jump up to 10,000 every 25 frames. So, and then they alternate. So it's just that blue and red light that you see throughout the video. Anyway, back to Kento. I need to figure out a couple of things. First off, this is a 3D photo scan that I made of Kento using the Displayland app, which is super cool. Follow them on Instagram and download the app and make your own stuff and send it to me so that I have more assets to make things with. Yeah, really, really great app. I would highly recommend you. It's free and you can share all of your 3D models. They build videos for you, which is really cool. Anyway, they are not a sponsor. Anyway, they generate these 3D models, and the only problem I have with it is not even really a problem, but it's a problem for me because I run things on a laptop. The try count, which is basically how many faces the models have, is astronomically high. Actually, to give you an idea, it is what 5 times more, or 50 times, yeah, 50 times more, whatever, triangles than are currently in this grid. Basically, my computer can't handle that. So what I did was, and this is something I do applaud them for, they give you a texture with your 3D model that can adapt to whatever face count your model is at, which is really spectacular. What I did was I used the Decimate modifier, which basically can bring your character's face count down. It just starts deleting faces and then connecting the faces that remain, which is pretty great. So what I did was here on frame 450, I started to keyframe the ratio for the Decimate. So it was at 0.2, which is pretty great. He still looks good. Of course, if you are to zoom in on his face, you can see that there's just a bunch of triangles, and his nose is all messed up, and like he doesn't have a chin, which I assure you, Kento does have a great chin, and it's all these weird things that, like, his hood is just it's a pile of triangles on his back. All of these things that you wouldn't really notice normally whenever you keep the light low and your camera is far away. So what I do is I keyframe this, slowly starts dropping. See, here it's at 1, here it's at 0.2, and then by the end here, it's at 0.12. Well, really by the end here, it should be at 0. Yeah, so it reaches 0. The big thing is, though, if I were to turn off this modifier, which is called build, we just have a lump. This is Kento. This is what Kento is turned into. Basically here he's still slightly Kento form, but he's only he's only a few triangles, and then here he's even less, and here he is just a blob. So it does look a little goofy, but it works whenever you add this, which is a build modifier. Basically what the build modifier does is it takes away pieces, well, specifically the reversed build modifier. Normally it builds up pieces from nothing, but this one, it takes them away, starting from an origin point and then working outwards. So it will start, clawing down pieces. As you can see here, it's just deleting pieces and faces from him, keeping the full model in its integrity, which is great for like surface. But then, yeah, it will start clawing away pieces, different frames, and then it'll eventually turn into nothing. As he has less and less faces, it will continue deleting faces until there's none left. And then that's just it. Here's the big difficult one, though. This is the problem that I needed to overcome. Normally, whenever you make a model, it has one texture. So for example, this railing. I go down to materials, and the material that I'm using is metal railing, which is a material that I made. I pick the color for it. I choose how metallic it needs to be. I pick the roughness and the tone. And as I turn these things around, you can see it changes what it looks like. It could be more metallic, it could be a rough metal, it could be completely shiny. the big thing was Kento already has his material. His material is Kento, his face and his jacket and everything like that. And I needed to find out a way to change this material into this material, which is a hologram material that I made. I adapted it off of a tutorial by Ducky 3D on YouTube, I think it was, and he made a hologram of the city. But I just really love that holographic feel, and I will show you guys how I did it. So go into shading here, and this is what I ended up doing. This was how I ended up cracking the code. This is Kento's texture. This is just an image, and it's all of his, it's basically thousands of pictures of him gridded into a piece and then designated by which ones are the most important. So like his face would be the most important, his shoes had a lot of detail, his fingers and stuff like that. Then, same thing, just a normal map of that. So after that, so yeah, basically how I got past this whole thing is just Kento here, all these grids. This is how I made the hologram effect. Basically, it's an emission texture, which is a glowing thing. It's anything that puts out an emission, which you can obviously see there. And then a transparent, which is like a window. You can see straight through it and it goes to the back. Then this is where the important piece comes in. There's a layer weight node, which basically means any direction that you look at this from, it will change based on where you're seeing it from. So which is pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't really I saw that on in a YouTube tutorial and I was like, oh, I can make something cool out of this, so I did. So yeah, that's just an emission shader, transparent, put into a mix shader, layer weight into the factor, and then I needed to use another mix shader. And this was the real trick. I used another mix shader because I needed to animate the change. So as you can see here, if I go back to layout, as I drag across, he starts real, but then the layer weight starts changing here, and then he starts turning slowly into the hologram. And here, actually, I think it's 550. He'll be full hologram. There. All of the faces are no longer Kento, they are now this hologram shader. And the reason, or the way that I did that was using mix shader, like you saw here, using the mix shader, plugging it back into the surface, and then animating the factor. So here at 1, he is entirely emission, he's entirely the emission texture. Here at 0, he's entirely Kento. So I just animated this to slide up and then slowly envelop him, which is pretty neat. I liked it a lot. I thought it was really cool. So yeah, that's how I did that effect. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention, how I got these materials. For the concrete here, you can see it's kind of screwed up on the side, but of course you don't need the side. You only need what's being shown from the camera. Same with the bottom. It's all stretched and gross on the bottom, but like you only need what's being shown in the camera, and this looks fine. So how do I do it? That one's actually really easy. Go into UV editing. You select your entire thing. You hit U and then project from view. But first, you're probably going to want to get something like this. All I did is hit 5 and then 7 on the keypad. 5 is for an orthographic view, and then 7 is a view from the top. Also, you can hit 9 and then switch to the view from the bottom, whatever. But basically, you get this. You hit A to select all. Then you hit U, project from view, and then everything will project onto this image on the right, which you can hit image, open, and then get whatever image you want from your computer. You hit U, project from view, and then you can move it around, basically. You hit G, and as you can see here on the right, it's moving as I'm moving the texture on the left here. And so basically you just grab it, you set it onto the image, and you align it however you want, wherever it makes sense for the faces to be. I think that's just about it. I didn't sculpt anything. These pipes were very simple. They were just normal pipes. I added some bevels in them to give it some character. This is all one material, or sorry, one object. I basically just extruded these edges using individual origins and then stretched them out. These intersect and they don't look good, but they're in the background, so it doesn't matter. Overall, I think that's it. That's how I made this animation. So I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a comment down below, and please share this with your friends, because that would be spectacular. The more you guys share of this, the more people come and look at the page, then the more likely I am to get a job, and I'm trying to get a job, so like, yeah, let me know, and that would be spectacular. Put it on your stories or something, because I think I'll probably make this an IGTV video because it's pretty dang long. So that's about it. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.